Start streaming. Are you streaming?
And then I got to thinking, you know what?
Asian microchord should be. Okay, this is not correct. Ooh, there's one person watching. Not the right name. Hello, YouTube. We are trying to make this work. There we go. Still have sound? Hello, hello? Yes, good. Sorry, YouTube, we're trying to figure this out. Why isn't this working? Live streaming.
So, is it all caps?
All lowercase.
Oh, all lowercase. Yes, R, no spaces. I've drawn like 2
Aha, I see what it's doing. Okay, we're gonna stop this. Hello, welcome to Blender. You should be live
Thank you.
soon.
Sorry.
Perfect.
Andrew was telling me that he actually had seen some of your stuff on Twitter.
Hello, YouTube. We're trying to figure this out. Give us a minute.
A couple things. I'm a creative consultant, and I do some work on websites.
Oh, okay, so you're mainly an engineer.
That's not anything. I'm actually an artist.
Oh, okay.
But I got into the field that actually blends art and engineering.
Okay, cool.
We're trying to figure this
I'm a
out.
photographer. I'm a school for that. And I thought I'd just pick up stuff. I do consulting for like marketing business. So I can get into doing creative consulting. What about you?
Please. Okay, perfect.
And working for me?
We're live. Make sure you can hear us. Hello, hello.
How long you doing yours?
Hopefully that's working.
I've been, it's been a year, but I got way back.
Alrighty, we're gonna swing it around this way. That is Leon. He's gonna be leading us today. Awesome. Hopefully that should work.
Feels to be in right now. We're doing some
Big group.
an aqua thing. So,
Yeah,
it's aqua thing.
it's definitely growing. Yeah. But when you said that, it's like intersection of weird.
Right.
I like totally relate. It's like a weird
Right,
intersection.
there's lots of colors from this, as well as all the design.
Right.
You ever used Blender before? You ever used Blender
I think I do something like Blender. So I was like interested in looking into it.
before?
Mostly for product stuff.
Oh, right, that's
Yeah.
I've never used it. He's a mechanical engineer, so he does like CAD design and everything.
Oh, really? That's cool. Maybe I need to have something to do.
Yeah. So this is showing the other side of the design, not for CAD, not for manufacturing.
And that was always my goal.
Although I did, when I googled it for like prototyping and stuff, I did see some.
Alrighty. So, this is Designer's Corner. If you're not here for Designer's Corner, you're in the wrong room. Or you can just
Yeah, you
stay.
can start to play with it.
If you can hear me, raise your hand. Yes.
Yes.
Works with 3-year-olds, works with adults. Awesome. So this is Designer's Corner. We meet every week from 8 to 9. We are sponsored by South With Us. They're awesome. They're out in Maryland. And they provide the candy and the art supplies and the goodwill for us to keep going. I'm Chrissy. I am very enthusiastic, but I will not be talking today. Today we'll have Leon presenting Blender, not the kitchen appliance. I'm sorry if you're expecting smoothies or milkshakes. That'll be later at your own house with your own self, not with us. Like I said, we meet every week. Demetrius is my partner in crime. He does UX-based design. I focus mainly on advertising, branding, and illustration. So you'll see me kind of geek out about that later. And without further ado, I'm just going to hand it right over to Leon. We are doing a live stream on YouTube, so if you say anything inappropriate, just know that everyone will know you say it. So just be careful about what you're saying. No pressure, Leon. And how about you?
Alright, cool. Alright, so, like she said, I'm Leon Kennedy. I work as a local visual artist. I do 2D and 3D work. I've worked with branding, logos, graphic designer, photographer. So I like to tell people, if you see it, I know how to make it, even if it's a video game. So I like it all. This is going to be about Blender. It's just an introductory course, and I hope that everyone following along will at least get one render out. I'll help you along. If I talk too fast, just know I'm sorry. I'll try and slow down if someone needs me to. Without further ado, let's get started. So, what is Blender, and how can it enrich my workflow? As designers, I think everyone is like, what can I do? What can I bring to my clients? What can I do to my creative effort? You can do a lot. So this is actually a book draft cover that I made at my last job. So this was made in Blender, and it was just supposed to, realistically, we can't get these boxes to make look like marble and put on military logos and call it a happy day. That would be an expensive thing, but in Blender it took me maybe 2 hours to do. Got the draft, so really quicken that up. So Blender is comprehensive. You can go from pretty much modeling to texturing to animating all within one software package. You don't need all the extraneous plugins and really expensive like renderers and that sort of thing. Of course, if you want to enrich your workflow with that, by all means spend your own money. Physically based rendering, that's just rendering that's based on reality. That's things like shininess, the way light literally interacts with the world around us. It's physically based. Really cool. You get really realistic effects. You can see like architectural visualization, and it looks like a real building, because it has that. Physics, particles, clothing, and hair simulation. So those are all really big things and trying to get realistic things. So you can do like cloth simulation on how a tablecloth will drape on a table. Physics is literally how objects collide. You could simulate a car crash if you sufficiently modeled everything. Hair simulation. Everyone knows like Disney renders and how their hair looks really amazing. So that sort of thing. And it's free. All of this is free with extensions that are largely free. So go out there, download everything you can. It's totally free. Alright, so where to use Blender? This is just in my experience. Of course, there's loads of other applications. Presentations, product development, branding, and visualization. So presentations and title screens, it's like if you have like a phone, if you're doing a product, if you work with like a company that does like Ethernet ports or something, whip up a 3D model, suddenly your presentation goes from really bland line work to really exciting, oh cool, look, this looks like it belongs on a poster. This is actually a project that I'm working on called Cadence. It's a short film. Looks like a movie poster that's supposed to be really cool and big and bland. This is also a cloth simulation. I can show you guys later how it actually floaters in the wind and stuff. So, where else to use it? Product development. These are all 3D models, and this is that physically based rendering thing that I was talking about where it looks realistic. If you do lighting installations, or if you have like a new product that you want to show off in a really cool and interesting way, really easy to do that, and you don't have to spend a ton of money on a photographer and getting the lighting rig and all that. And so this is just like a breakdown that I got from Amazon. Branding. Like I showed you with the book, really easy, really great way to show off to the client, hey, this is what your branding is going to look like in the wild, so to speak. So, if you got a book, do a book render. And what's cool about it is you only have to make these models once, and then everything else is you just like drag and drop the images in. And so you build it once, you're done. All right. Visualization. So this is that architectural viz. This is actually 3D render. And if you're doing like comic books, or that sort of thing, it can also accommodate that sort of look too. So Blender is a really versatile piece of software. Alright, so what you'll need, keyboard, mouse, patience, and reference. So keyboard, hopefully one with the number pad, because there's a few keyboard shortcuts. Blender is really big on keyboard shortcuts, and if you're familiar with Adobe Photoshop or Illustrator, keyboard shortcuts really expedite your process. A mouse, if you're comfortable with the touchpad, kudos, I cannot use a trackpad to save my life with Blender. So I brought a mouse. Patience is a complex software. Rome wasn't built in a day, neither was this software, and neither is your skill set. So just have patience, you'll get it. And reference. Reference is super important, especially if you're making something that's supposed to be based on reality. Even if it's just a really quick Google picture, you don't have to be exact, you just need that reference. Alright, so, references. This is kind of the mood that we're going to go for in this walkthrough. We're making, actually the brief is we're making the statue for the Designer's Corner award ceremony. So, that was sort of the brief that I sort of came up with to narrate this whole thing. So I wanted something simple background, and I needed a reference because I don't know what metal reacts to light just off the top of my head, right? So, what we're going to be making, really simple. Hopefully it'll be really simple, right? So yeah, I think that's it. Okay, yeah it is. So we're going to just jump over into Blender if you're following along. If you haven't downloaded it, now would be a great time. It's free. It's normally not that big. I think 87 megabytes. And then it like unzips sometimes like 120 or something like that. So, yeah. Alright, I'm going to sit down. Okay, so, Blender. Alright, this is really janky, but this should show you what we're working with. What I'm going to do is hit Control N, and we're going to reload the startup file. I said reload. Okay, cool. So I customize my startup files. When you make a new startup file, you may have the default lamp and the default cube. You can just select those. And if you're confused with the whole left-right selection thing, because I know that for some people that's really confusing, Blender uses right as think about that. Uses right as its select option. The really quick way you can change that is user preferences. And we're going to go to Input and select with left or right. So, let's let you do that. If you're familiar with Maya or 3ds, there's also these two settings. These are other 3D softwares available, but I just use the default. And let's see if I can't. Anyway, there's a button that lets you see which buttons I'm pressing. Alright, so. Getting started. Okay, so normally I like to start with a sketch just on paper. I don't know what I'm doing, you know, just as a guiding point. Composition-wise, I chose a really bland composition because I figured this was a little more corporate, right? This is a more corporate, like, very stately angle. I could show you how to jazz it up with different composition and different lighting later. So right now we're just going to work on getting this modeled. Alright, so the first thing you're going to do, when you're on the default, hit Shift-A, it'll bring up this menu, and we're going to create a plane, and that plane is all the way over there. If your plane is not in the middle, like mine wasn't, the really quick way to fix that, come over here. What's a 3 cursor?
The shift is the shortcut.
Oh, to bring up that menu is in, right here. And to get rid of it is just hit it again. And then this menu is also T. Alright, okay, so Shift-A, mesh, plane, scale it all the way up. Ooh. And right now we're just making the backdrop. So, I don't know what the keyboard shortcut is for you guys, but whenever I hit Tab, I get this list, and then I can jump into edit mode. The other way you get into edit mode? Is there a question?
What was that menu?
Oh, Shift A to make, yeah. And then we just chose plane.
Oh.
Yeah. So think of it like Shift Add, and that works everywhere, generally. So for me to get to edit mode,
Tab shortcut.
I think it's Tab for default. So I just go into edit mode. And I know I'm in edit mode because I can select individual vertices, and that's what these points are. And then I can also hit Control Tab to select edges or faces. These are edges. Shift Tab, and then this is a face. It's like, okay. Tell me if I'm moving too fast.
A little bit.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, I'll slow it down. Alright, so we're going to make sure that we want to select the edge. We're going to select this back edge here, and we're going to hit the E button, stands for extrude, and then we're going to hit the Z button, so it locks it onto the Z plane. You can tell which plane you're on with this little gimbal down here. Lock it into that plane using the Z. So Z locks it here. We could also, if we wanted to move it only in the Y, we could move it in the Y. If we wanted to move it in the X. But we want to move it in the Z because we want it to go up. And this is going to be serving as our backdrop. And if you haven't bought muslin paper, it's super expensive. And the fact that we could just like really easily create a muslin paper backdrop is like super cheap. Really cool, really cool. All right. We're gonna pull this out some because I don't know how big this object is gonna be. And then we're done. Basically done with that portion. All right. Jump back into object mode. The reason you want to jump back into object mode is when you're in edit mode and you add any new models, those are all grouped into one. And it's kind of tedious to separate them out again. And so the next part of this. All right. Okay, cool. Questions?
Walk around and make sure you're doing it right.
Okay. Yes.
I don't know if I'm gonna edit.
We may get to a half of an award, but
Okay. Okay, that works. All right. So
it'll be a
what you're actually
participation
going to do is
award.
you're going to select this cue. Okay, you're actually in edit mode. All right.
You had high confidence for us, though, guys. Like, let's just pat ourselves on the back. And he's like, "Hey, you just do this, right?"
It's not the default, so it must be.
Now I know what people mean when they're like, "How do you Photoshop is magic?" It's like, no, you just know. You just do things. It's like, oh no, I get it now. I get it now. Yeah,
And
it's
so for
just
that-
you work with it every day, so it seems intuitive,
All right. So,
That's why-
right.
right?
Okay, so for scaling, I totally forgot that keyboard shortcut. You just hit S. That might be why your planes are so tiny. So you just hit S for scale. Hit S. And then drag out, and that's how you get your plane bigger.
It's okay, guys. We're all in it together. All in
Yeah.
it together, and we have the captain of the ship here. He'll see
I'm
it.
bringing it, I'm
Seriously,
crashing it into the
It'll
ground.
be
as we
great.
speak.
If you're on a Mac and want to delete, it's function delete, not delete.
Okay.
All right. Now do I
How do
have
you go
another one?
into edit mode?
So just tab.
Okay.
Click on
Are you connected to the internet?
Yes.
Okay, that's really cool. That'll definitely save us a lot more time. All right, go here. Hit this button right in the corner. Or, sorry, File, User Preferences, Add-ons, Search.
Ooh, that sounds good.
Search.
Yeah,
by.
right here.
Did everyone follow along?
Which one is it?
What are you
It's Pi
I'm adding a shortcut to everyone's interface, so it's like so much faster.
Denny's official.
Oh, you
What are
are.
we adding? Because I can't see the timeline now.
I think you get a file. You went to file.
Well, I know where to add it, but what are
All right.
Oh, pie,
That's fine.
pie,
Drive, man, drive.
like eating a pie.
Uh,
You just search for that, and we're adding an add-on.
Yeah, they could. They could.
The what?
They were just talking about they could really use some UX help.
Oh yeah, maybe we'll do that next week.
I mean, that kind of would be cool. It's open source.
Yeah.
It's like that's pretty. It's a pretty powerful tool.
Really big. I
already,
mean, like
so-
super big.
Yeah.
Yep. And then
I don't
We'll do a
know.
quick pan of the room. These are our awesome designers today.
Okay. What's
That's
that?
that.
We're learning how to blend out. It's like we're in a blender. Well, we're not getting chopped up. Okay, we're back.
Pull it down.
And then you
This is the dangerous thing about handing me a live stream. Anything will happen.
Did everybody?
Yeah. Anybody want a second round of candy?
All right, so you're gonna jump back into object mode.
Okay, we're gonna spin back around. Let's just do this.
Left.
I feel like spinning this way.
I feel like it should be like one person.
That's the awesome guy who knows what he's doing. Ooh.
You don't have this orange highlight under, so you left click.
Okay. Now.
Yep. So now there's another square, and then you just
Grab a non-chewy candy.
That's not it.
Or non-loud one.
Oh right. So the add-on section is you hit this file button, jump down to user preferences, add-on, search.
How did you select an edge?
That's what I can remember.
Yes. 1 second. And then
We're still like on how do we select
Yeah.
an edge?
How do we start the document? How do we open Blender?
Okay, so This will okay. So I was in the middle of explaining how this will make selection easier for everybody. So did you guys get the pie add-on?
Yes.
No internet connection.
No.
Okay. Sorry about that. All right. So
You
now,
can watch the YouTube video later.
if you're in edit mode, like I am, or I'm not, you should now have this really nice window whenever you hit tab. Jump over to edit mode, and then to select just the edge, you hit Shift or Control tab, and it should bring up this.
So what did you do to make that plane one more time?
Oh, okay. So hang on.
Now that I've got my plane here.
Alright, so we're just gonna hit edge right here. Hit E. E is for extrude. Remember, we're gonna also lock it in the Z plane, so it only goes up, and we can't move it from back to back. It only goes up and down. And then that's it. And then I don't know how wide the camera angle is gonna be because it mirrors like an actual camera focal length. So we're just gonna drag this out. Make it super long. And then that's pretty much it. If you want to center this, okay. Okay. All right. So object mode again. Back to object mode, and I did that by hitting tab, and then going to object mode. If you're in a mode that you don't know what you're doing, you hit escape a couple of times, and then you just hit like tab to then yeah. All right. So that's what I do. Where I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing, and then I just hit escape a couple of times until I'm like, okay, I know I'm out of everything. All right. So Shift A. I'm gonna drill these like over and over again because otherwise this was not like. Otherwise I have to go over here and be like, which one do I want? And I don't see it. Oh no. So Shift A. We're gonna create a cube. A simple cube. Whee.
So cute.
This gimbal is what makes the movement. Gonna hit S for scale. I'm just gonna scale it up. And you're like, but that one has a weird edge. And you're like, it's okay. And I'm like, it's okay. And here's the cool thing: we can cheat it, and it's just gonna stay there, and we can clearly see it piercing through the floor, even though that's not how reality works. But shh, it's our secret. It's like Photoshop, but in 3D. Like this is literally embedded in the floor, but it looks like it's just resting on paper. All right. So what we're gonna do now? Have everyone created their cube?
Everyone's lying through their teeth right now. No.
Yes. I actually finished the render.
It was a cube. And then I did something out of it. I don't know how I
Did you
made
get
that.
creative?
It was like a one-click thing.
That's really cool though.
It is
So
really cool. It looks
she's-
like it could be an
Square.
award.
Yeah.
If you button one side of it.
We are creative here. Yeah.
Actually,
You're a designer corners, multiple corners there.
and then hit face. And then now you're gonna
Great.
click
Thank you.
those four faces and
Most
holding
impressive.
shift and you can select and hit delete. No, don't delete.
It literally went from that to it went from that
Boom.
to that. Wait, hold on if I can do
Lift up.
do it again. No, it won't do it again. But
It's a one-time
anyways,
deal.
it went from this shape to the
No,
other.
you
That's
just
awesome.
Click.
So you select the back edge.
I'm most
But I
impressed.
did- all I did was click.
Right now
Control.
you
I don't know if it's a bug. It may be a bug.
Maybe.
So I just clicked control
Hit E.
and then I sat. I don't know if it's a bug. It looks like a
And
bug.
now you've extruded that edge.
Could you?
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
Do whatever you want, software.
Yeah.
So we're now.
How do you get that?
No, that's. I mean, you could hit control. Yep. Delete.
That's where I was getting confused.
So we got a mini expert back there who's helping out. Hero of the hour is that guy. Apparently that's his hot seat. That guy. Oh no,
Okay,
that
so
guy.
can you rotate your
Yeah.
camera around? I think
It's weird that it brought up all sides.
Yeah.
So where'd you get there?
Oh,
So I
did you?
There's a lot of there's no
Yeah. I think it just took it like a the
Oh yeah,
plane and extruded the entire plane.
Alright, so you're trying to make the backdrop right now?
Oh, shit.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Okay,
Any part.
hit tab, edit mode.
So how can I know that I'm in edit mode? Because I thought I was in edit
I
mode.
don't know, see, I just really know, I wish there was like a bar that said you're in edit mode, but there isn't until well, actually you can tell if you're in edit mode if you can control tab,
Okay.
I'd rather have like less than around.
and you can select them with those. That's how you know you're in edit mode.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Does it
So
say
right
it
now you're
underneath
just like,
too? So Leon. Leon?
yeah, so control tab, edge, select one edge, hit A.
Right
Mhm.
there.
Try that again. Select one of the edges.
So is this where it says object mode or edit mode?
Does it? Oh my god, it does. Okay, I learned something new today. Hey. Okay, hey, you selected that edge finally.
Okay.
Hit E. E stands for extrude.
Okay.
And then hit Z so you make sure you can only move it up and down. Alright, cool.
Cool. That makes sense.
And then click to confirm.
Confirm.
Yeah, just click to confirm.
Okay.
Confirmed it. Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, I made it.
Thank you. Thanks for the moral support here. I'm like, I was like, I'm giving up a little bit, but I won't give up.
Alright, so
There's
hit
not the
tab
room
again.
for giving up.
Object mode. And let's select your baby award down there.
Here?
Yep. Just select that. You use left click.
Oh, look.
Unless you change yours.
There we go.
Alright, and you're gonna hit that blue gimbal and that'll move it only up and down. So position it wherever you want to. I position mine right against the ground.
Okay.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah, what's this?
Okay. Cool.
Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just for anything?
Yep, that's
It renders pretty nicely though.
Sorry about this.
You got it. Alright guys, you ready?
Okay.
Gonna keep mine blowing.
Okay, so this is a little cluttered for me, so to get rid of these two menus, just hit T. N. Okay.
TN.
Okay. And that should get rid of that. Right now, the next part what we're gonna work on is, I don't know, getting this really cool edge that's really hard to do in Marble, but you know, we have digital. So with your, object mode. Alright. So with your cube selected in object mode, and you can tell if you're in object mode down here, you just click this, and then you hit edit mode. And then we're gonna hit our favorite control tab, select edge.
How do you make the whole cube orange?
Object mode right here. And then with it selected, you should see an orange highlight. And then hit edit mode.
Okay. Yeah.
Edge. Click this edge and literally push it down. And we're done. We got an award. We're award winning already. Looks a little weird. Mine does. But if you're finding through us being that short, by all means. I'm just gonna really quickly fix mine. Okay. So the way to do that, control tab, select the face, pull it down, give it some length. Cool. Alright. So, you guys want to see what your stuff looks like so far? If you guys rendered it out right now? Alright. So, what we're going to do is make sure we're in object mode, hit A, until you see everything selected. And I'm just going to rename these. You double click to rename. This is going to be ground. And then this is going to be award. Just double click. And then that way it's really easy to see what's going on. You double click over here in what's called the outliner. Alright, so what we're going to do is everyone's going to see this right up here, right at the top bar. There's going to be 3 options. You're going to select Cycles. Cycles is the physically based rendering. And you're now in Cycles. You should see, if you've never used Blender before, everything should lighten just a little bit, just a degree or 2. And that means you're in Cycles. All right. So, this brings us to a really important part of Blender, which is this particular part of the menu. It's over on the right-hand side. This is on the right-hand side. What we're going to do is click this little sphere. Actually, before we do that, we're going to make another plane. Shift-A brings up that menu. Click plane. Locate the plane. And then I'm going to bring it up. And then we're just going to hit S to scale. And this is going to serve as our light, believe it or not. So, just a really simple overhead light. Cycles doesn't render anything unless you have a light in the scene, and so we're going to make a light really quickly. Think of this like a softbox, you know, like when you see like a fashion shoot and they have like the big white things. This is what this is. It's just a glorified softbox. So with this selected, we're going to go over here and we're going to collect this sphere over here on the right-hand side. Right? Click New. And we're going to call this key light. It's key light. TV. Alright. You don't have to rename it, but it just makes things easier. And then we're going to click this button here that says Diffuse. And we're going to click Emission. And it's right below Subsurface Scattering, which is the longest one. Alright. And we click that. Boom. And now we have a light in our scene. And if you don't believe me, hit Z, and then hit rendered. So that's what you should see. So,
okay, because I suck at making lights, what did you click to transform your plane into the light?
okay, so what I did was I clicked this sphere right here, and it should bring up, it should just have like an add button. You click add, and then that gives it a new material, that assigns it a material. And so everything in the world is made out of material, even lights, just computer logically. So I called this key light, and then I clicked the color. The color actually changes the light color. And then I click this. This should read as diffuse when you first create it, but you actually make it an emission. And then that makes it an emission.
Emission means light.
Yeah, it emits light. Yeah. You could turn up the strength and it'll make it brighter, but we don't want to do that. We could make it disco. And I mean, we could actually animate this if we wanted to, but don't do that. Alright, so we're just going to put this right back with off-white. Alright. So this might be a little intense on the computer because it's rendering it live. So for a really complicated scene with a lot of materials, it'll be really taxing on your machine. A really quick way to navigate a scene that's really complicated is just to make everything material. And so we can actually see here that we have no colors assigned to anything. So we assign colors the way we assign lights. We make a new material. So new material. And I'm going to call this award. Just for naming's sake. Boop. And let's give it a color. What color should it be?
Pink.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was ready.
It's always pink.
Alright, so we want to jump back in, see what that looks like. Rendered.
Good choice, good choice.
Okay.
Second color is always green, third's always
Have
purple.
like an associated sound effect from the scale.
Alright, so what's really cool is we can already see like physics coming in, right? So we can see the shadow is slightly pink, which is what happens when an object, like if you've done like drawing or life study, you know that bounce light. So it's already picking up the pink of this award, this really great award. So something that's going to give realism to your model is there's no such thing as a super sharp edge. Even a knife is not at a 90 degree or whatever degree angle. There's like thickness there. So the way we're going to fake that with this model is we're going to come back over here, and this is why this is such an important menu. We're going to come back over here, and we're going to click this gear icon.
What menu are you on? That's so important.
This whole bar.
All right, so
Yeah.
I've got like a million things over here.
Oh.
Should so small.
Should I come back? Everyone else? I think Ran is helping. Thank you, Ran. The hero everyone needs. All right. All right. So we call that beveling. If you're familiar with engineering, you bevel an edge. Generate. Make sure you're on the gear icon. This is the sphere. This is the gear, and then this is the wrench or whatever. Wrench. Sorry. And then we're gonna add a bevel. And automatically we see that the default adds a really nice bevel to this edge, and it makes it more believable as an object, because that table, even though it looks really sharp, is not, like, we can go and touch it and see that it's not perfectly 90 degrees. So right here, just turn your segments up to something like 10. Whee, makes it nice and soft. And now it looks like it was actually made instead of a 3D render. That makes sense. Okay. Want to make sure. Okay. Okay. We have a pink award now. Cool. All right. Okay. So now that we have like a basic light, a basic scene, and a subject, we can talk about adding a camera. And a camera is super easy. Make sure you're in object mode. Shift A. Camera. And I don't know where mine is. Oh, right. Let me jump back into material. Okay, so this camera behaves like a regular camera would. If I can find it, there it is. All right. Whatever it's looking at is where it's what it's going to create. And if ever you want to look through the camera, you're going to hit 0 on your numpad, or view and camera. And so then you can see where it is.
No, go ahead.
Go for it. So something that I found out, which is a really nifty trick, don't tell anybody. No, share this. Positioning your camera is just like a really tricky. Just like no matter what you're doing, it's always really tedious. So I found this really handy thing to help positioning your camera. And what you're going to do is you're going to hit Shift A when you're in object mode, and you're going to add an empty plane axis. And what this is going to do is serve as a camera focus. And so everywhere this is, your camera will look at. So the way you make sure that this camera focus is what you use this. You use what's called a restraint. And restraints are found in the chains over here on this side. So you select your camera object, and you select this chain, add object constraint, track 2.
Makes sense.
Okay, and then you're going to choose camera focus, and then -Z, Y. This will all be in the tutorial online if there's a confusion. But I found this out, and it's super helpful, because now wherever, if you note, let me zoom in a little bit, wherever this axis is pointing, that's where the camera's looking.
That's really cool.
So then this is really easy for me to arrange a composition. So put that here, my camera's pointing to it, I hit 0. If I want to move where my camera's looking, I move that axis. Wow. Sorry.
So that's what that thing?
We're still trying to find the camera. It's pretty darn hard to find.
Did he add it to the scene? Is it in the scene?
It's somewhere in this.
Yeah.
Playing hide and go seek.
Select. You could right click, select, and then it should at least show you at least a gimbal of where it is. I wish this was like Unity or something. You could just hit F and it would just like focus and zoom in on it. But
That'd be awesome.
yeah. Let me see if nope, that's not a keyboard shortcut. Alright, cool.
Right, can you walk around?
Yes.
So I made my.
Spin this guy around.
Mm-hmm. Alright, so you're gonna click that, track 2, empty, and you're gonna go -Z. Yep, you already got the empty. -Z and Y. And Y. There's the one down there. Y.
That's it.
And now wherever you move that axis.
Wrong. Okay.
I'm just watching.
You got it about. Let's go.
I got it to Bevel.
So,
I love how you moved it when we know like you're working.
I'm just getting familiarized with it, so that's good.
I still don't have a pink cube. I just have a cube.
Okay, that's fine. That's really easy to change. Select your cube. And then we're going to add.
It's like tying your shoes.
For the first time. Spin around that way.
Right here. It's in that bar. Click that sphere.
Okay.
Right. New.
Yep.
Yep. And then you're going to click this.
This one?
Yep, click that white bar. And then move it to whatever color you want.
Here's the reason why it's called the intro level.
Yes.
So.
Alright.
Right.
Rad pink.
Alright, and then we need to make sure that your camera is actually tracking.
Yeah,
Okay, click that. Yeah.
Next,
And
we're
then
gonna be making
that
ourselves
change.
fully rendered.
Oh my God.
Extreme detail. If he's panicking, you know we're gonna make. We can't even make
Alright,
squares.
so minus
Hair.
Y.
Yeah. All the hair. We're recreating Brave just today. Took them 3 years. We'll do it in 3 minutes.
Alright, cool. And now if you want to view what your camera is viewing, you
Oh,
can
we
go
back.
down to view and hit
I
camera.
didn't get the design of this trial.
And that should be full screen.
Okay.
Alright, so how do you go back
Go
to
ahead and get,
You just rotate and you leave camera mode automatically.
no work. Work
Bloop. There.
Is my light too dead? Correct.
Alright, click it. We can actually try that one before. And click that sphere again. Remember everything is a material. And you do, yeah, it is. And you can check that by hitting Z.
It's rare to see you struggle. This is great. Now we have it on camera.
You gotta like this scene.
We're still in Blender.
You can make that bigger. and
We're gonna
like
check in
more
on
area.
YouTube. How's everybody doing online? Do we even have anybody online?
And leave that.
Hit Z again.
I have no idea. I think one person's watching, but that might just be me.
Hi,
Hi, me. You're awesome.
Like, I'm here.
Yeah. It's like, please. I think we had more than one person at one point.
Hit S. for
That might have also been me on my phone.
Pull it out.
That's right.
Looks like you. Hit Z. Render.
Hopefully this is going all right.
Okay.
Thank you for hanging in with
Yes.
us. Now
We were making
almost back.
on the column.
You guys are doing great. You guys are awesome.
Okay, so that's actually a really good question. He was asking, how do we set a particular angle if we're doing like a scientific rendering?
Or distance or.
Yes. So what we can do is we have this button right here. This is the third button over from the left, and this is where we set our units. So I have mine at metric because Unity and Unreal, those are game engines, use meters as their standard unit of measurement, and so does like the rest of the world. They don't use them, freedom units. So
I love that.
so yeah, that's where we do that. And then if we wanted to, we do 1, which will put us in the front view. And then 5 switches up between orthographic and isometric. So orthographic is like a no perspective. Everything is, it's not based on reality. It's mathematical. So right here, and then yes, we put mine on the side. Right here, then we can like go into edit mode. And what I would do is select this edge, hit this button, and then I would just say, so we should be able to grab this, and we say in the x-axis, or no, x-axis.
Can you reference it off something else?
I'm sure there's a plugin for that. And I'm trying to make this move up and down a particular unit. So grab on the z-axis 5, and then we
5
move it up 5.
Or 5 meters. Yeah,
Hmm?
there you go. It went 5 meters.
Yeah.
So that's a
So
really tall one.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's huge. That's awesome.
Added 5 meters.
Also, it looks like a rubber eraser, like one of those green erasers. You had it before?
So, I mean, also, if you wanted to make everything snap, you could just set a snap increment too, so everything moves in 1 millimeter, 1 meter units.
Cool.
But I don't want to do that because this is insane.
It's hot. It is great. For being a free program, it is very robust.
Right?
Like, very robust. So,
All right. So where were we? Oh, right. We gotta go back to our references, right? Like this is what happens. You're like, what am I doing? So yeah, here are our references. It's supposed to be shiny. So every object is not normally composed of just color. It's composed of multiple different aspects, right? So leather has a higher shine than something like cement. So the way we mimic that in Blender is we use, in Cycles at least, is we're using what's called nodes. And we had a brief experience with nodes when we selected the color and changed the emission type. So what we're going to do is make sure this object is selected. And I like to size this one up at the bottom. And you could just do that by grabbing this line.
How do you pan?
How do I pan?
Yeah.
Shift and click in the middle, like this. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, that.
Okay, shift and middle click. I don't know how to do it when you're using a trackpad.
It's on the Mac. You don't click. You just slide it across.
Oh, okay.
you just answered your own question.
Well, once you told me to
Yeah.
start.
All right. So we're going to click this button and node editor.
Wait, which button
what
did you click?
This one. Literally.
The entire room. Nobody followed.
We're going to click this button down here.
Bottom left.
Yes, and then we're going to click node editor. I'm sorry. I did that
You're just gonna click here and you're done.
Click any button on the screen.
Yeah.
Alright, so node editor. So this is where we see, this is our material output. This is what the world will see at the end. The world won't see this portion. And so the way that we're going to fake this being shiny is we're going to, once again, use one of our favorite keyboard shortcuts. Shift A, search, gloss. And gloss aptly adds gloss to whatever object you have. So, how do we combine these two? Because if we click this to here, it's going to overwrite that one, and if we do this one to here, it's going to overwrite that one. And there's a node for that, and it's called search, Shift A, search, and mix. Mix, which mixes.
Oh, cool.
Surprising. So, what we now have is, if we look at this.
This gigantic box.
We've got our background helper here.
Okay.
We're gonna have to make you a shout out, buddy. Or like you get double handfuls of chocolate.
Yes.
Like Halloween when you were a kid, they were like, take as many as you want. You're like, really? Can I
Yeah,
just take
mix,
the
and
whole
then we
bowl?
use the gloss. So Shift A, search, gloss.
Are you the best house ever?
I'm on glass.
Or the full size
Oh, no, no.
candy bars? Like
Okay, so
you
then
knew you were in a
Shift
good
A,
neighborhood if you had full size candy bars.
There's a sign that said
Search.
So
Use.
and then there was a guy saying
DIFF.
something scared
Yep.
her.
This is great. Oh.
Where is it connected?
Those are the worst.
Connection
Very
site.
interesting
This
from,
is your
like,
mix.
the
It's going to combine these two
standpoint.
nodes into one.
How many people take?
Yep.
No, I mean like
Oh,
from
this
my
is-
And now,
standpoint,
if you
like,
wanna see-
Yeah.
like this totally makes sense, and I'm like, whoa,
Where?
this is totally interesting.
Well, it's what happens when it's open source. You don't have a team of UXers working on it. It's like disparate people across the entire universe.
There's
that are
actually
like,
Yeah,
there's
I
called a
think
Blender for artists, and they like consolidate. They like got rid of all the like repeat menus, and like they streamlined the keyboard shortcuts to match Adobe.
oh, that's beautiful.
So,
Wait, what is this?
Where is that? Where
well,
can we
I
get
didn't want
that?
to be like, okay, so download Blender, and then you need to download this add-on, but you don't know how to download add-ons, so I was like, we'll just do it at the default.
Oh man. Okay, next
So tell me this add-on. I need
Yeah.
this add-on in my life.
next session we will be using the Blender for dummies and or artists because that sounds awesome.
Okay, so the way we.
Blender crashed. Blender crashed.
Oh no.
Oh, speaking of which, Control S early and often.
Yeah.
That's one that's really universal. Control, just save, or like, you know,
Yeah.
you make one tiny vertex out, and you're like, okay, Control save.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, control is too corrupt.
Well,
Yeah.
You don't have to, but it's contact, it's more stable.
There you go.
Saved. If you want to check your glossiness, I'm sorry yours crashed.
It was just too awesome for the world. Like,
You
the
hit
world
Z
was not prepared for it.
and rendered. We can now see that we have a little bit of gloss. So we can actually turn this up and we can lean it more towards the glossy side and then make it like aluminum.
Cool.
Though to be fair, well that's a whole other topic. Anyway, and then put this down here.
It's rare. It's crazy. I haven't seen it this year.
Yay, game.
It's like a brand new case.
So I'm not gonna nerd out right now. Anyway, so this is basically it, and then we want to see what our camera views, and that's our ad. That's roughly our ad.
Mhm.
Right? I don't know what is going on with this wonky thing in the background.
Okay, and you're going to camera view by hitting 0 on your numpad, is that right?
Yes, or going down to view.
The long way.
Camera.
I won't remember.
Just let you know we're at the 5-minute mark.
Oh, okay. Well, then we're done. If you have your camera and your lights and your objects, then you're basically. I'm not even kidding. I'm not even kidding. We go back here. We see this is what it's going to render. And we hit this little snapshot picture, and we literally click render, and then that's it. It renders kind of gray, just fine. If you have Photoshop, you just go and spruce in the colors. Whee! And then that's what I did on my other one. These colors are really, this is what mine looked like straight out of the render.
Oh, cool.
Really gray, kind of flat, and then I just color corrected it. And then added a really crappy typographic treatment.
Perfect.
Great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
It's really so. I mean, it sounds. Once you like do this over and over again, you know, Shift A, I have to add a new object, and then I move the vertices, and get out of that mode, and then Shift A, do it over and over again. And then it's just like, oh, Shift A, Control Tab, 0, would fly in, move. It becomes just like second nature, just like Photoshop when you're first learning. It's like, I don't know, how do I select?
What do you do anything?
I need to watch a tutorial on this. That's how I like. Blender was literally that for me, and hopefully that doesn't. It sounds like I didn't help that at all in the world.
No, this is cool.
One other YouTube video. Woohoo! Oh, that's awesome. And I always make the comparison whenever anyone's like, how do you use Photoshop? How do you do it? You literally practice every day. Because just like talking, just because you do it every day doesn't mean you're any good at it. So you just keep practicing, learn from people who are good at it, and learn their tips and tricks. Because that's the only way you'll get better. We all suck the first time around. But you just keep practicing, and then you can be as good as he is. And then it just becomes second nature, where you're just like, oh, yeah, you just tab, and everything happens, and you can make an award.
Yeah. But, yeah, the PSD, the blend file, is all going to be in the folder at the end of this, so you can open up my blend file and see how I did my lights and the values for that, how I did my materials and that sort of thing. Also, you can see how I did my color correction. You know, I'm a big fan of lots of curves and a hue saturation and a gradient map. And then don't learn from my topography. That was that was really kind of like, oh, this needs to have text. So yeah, that was Open Sans if anyone's curious.
Not Comic Sans.
Not to be confused.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, what am I gonna do? No,
Ooh.
that didn't. I was like, oh, that doesn't work. So I was like, delete that. Back to the center. But yeah, I'm sure there's tons of questions, and I'm gonna be here. So if you have questions or want to pass emails around, I'm definitely willing to like meet you at a coffee shop or something and help you with a project or something. I actually work with Ran on like game development. That's how he knows. But yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming.